A twofer. Man, this is the first time I've done 2 videos in one day since in over a month. Definitely not since I've been on sabbatical out here on the west side. Just went to La Jolla Beach, took some great pictures, flew the drone. Tough time. Had a great time out there. Loved it. Real good time. Came back. It's only 4 something on the west side. So I said, I'm going live, and then we're going to go get something to eat with some friends of mine. All right. Listen. If you watch my videos, you know I try my best to deal with truth and honesty. Now, that doesn't always mean that everything I say is the truth and is what is objective truth. I'll say that. But we try to be realistic. And what I'm about to say in this video, I'm saying this as a black man with dreads, all that, right? From the hood, you know, been locked up, sold drugs, kept it real, shot at, shot back, all the stuff that makes you gangster and black. I'm about to say what I'm about to say as that person. The media, black sympathizers, some black women, and others are making black women look dumb. And I'm not trying to be crass. I'm trying to be pointed. When I say what I'm saying this as a black man who I love all people. I'm proud to be black. I don't care what people say, what the statistics say. I'm glad that the Lord sovereignly made me black. All the stuff I've gone through is a part of what the Lord has redeemed me from. So while I regret certain attitudes and actions that I made, they also are part of who I am. I'm an ex-gangster for real. So when I say these things, but I'm also a truth teller, and I'm not afraid to tell the truth, even if it's at the expense of my own community. The media, black sympathizers, and some black women are making black women look dumb. And let me explain why. First things first, welcome to CNN. I'm Kirk Kennedy, the underdog. Let's go in. On this channel, we take no part in the unfruitful works of darkness, but instead expose them. That's what I try to do. All right. We are at roughly 35-23. Let's get to 35-50. We can do that. Come on, y'all. We can do it. Hit the like button. Subscribe. Let's get it. Let's get to it. We're on the road to 5K. We're trying to get to 5K soon, and we got some stuff we're trying to do. All right. Back to the premise. It's my second video today. I can't believe I'm doing 2 videos today. I got time, baby. The media is making some black women look dumb. Now, to understand what I'm saying, because people are who use this type of language for shock value, like ever since Howard Stern, and then back in the day, and Don Imus. Remember back in the day when Don Imus on his radio show called the Rutgers female basketball team nappy-headed hoes. Remember that joint? And he lost his job. Eventually, there was an outcry, and his defense was, well, black rappers do it all the time with all their music, right? And there were people, so there was around the time, this is around 2006 or something, because Jay-Z had retired from rap, and then he came back in 2007, and everyone was like, oh, there was this big celebration like Jay-Z's back, right? Well, during the time in his absence from 2004 to 2007, I think it was during that period of time, Don Imus made this comment about black women. And there was a frenzy for a while because Oprah got involved and all these people were saying that rap music and black culture has to stop saying N-word, right? Stop all that type of stuff, right? Stop, degrading women, which I think on one level is true. The N-word, we can have that conversation. I understand the term of endearment. I understand how it could be like a word you want to hear people say, but all that happened, right? And then Don Imus lost his job. Jay-Z came back and everything went back to normal. Same old, right? So, and then after that, we had in the culture, outside of black culture, the broader body of American culture, we had, beginning with Trayvon Martin, and then really blowing up with Mike Brown in 2014. there was a lot of public discourse and a lot of the Black Lives Matter kind of situation moved in, right? And this is what, when I make this statement about making Black women look dumb, you have to understand the cultural context that we're in now, right? You don't have to submit to it or agree with it, but you got to understand it. And if you really want your message to be heard, you really want your point made, sometimes you have to understand, how do people think about this, and how can I communicate in such a way that will change the way people think? If I just say I don't care what people think and keep pushing the same narrative, then you're going to get a response that's not going to be beneficial to your cause. So you have the whole, after Trayvon, after Mike Brown and Ferguson, you get the Black Lives Matter movement rises, right? And it was a sweeping movement. Even the conservatives were trying really hard to end the movement, and they just couldn't. You had Ibram Kendi and Robin, what's her name, D'Angelo, who wrote White Guilt or White Fragility or whatever. All these people were making tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, just to talk about like anti-racism and all that stuff, right? It was making white people particularly, but conservatives, like really mad. They couldn't stop it. What stopped the movement was the failure of the people, the women who, Patrisse Cullors and them, who started Black Lives Matter. They proved themselves to be fraudulent. They were fraudulent. And the chapters who believed in the mission of going after what they would still call systemic racism, which I think is I think that's a bad term. I think you can say racism is systematic, but systemic means it's in everything. Systematic means it happens within systems, and I think that's well and true. I could show you plenty of articles about like corporations like Chase Bank or JP Morgan, and these people settling on lawsuits against Black people for defrauding them within the last 6 months to 5 years. I mean, I can show you many articles that prove that this stuff still happens within, but you don't say, well, the banking industry is racist. No, but racism can happen within the banking industry, within the system of banking, right? What we used to call, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, all right? So what you have is this whole movement shows up. Candace Owens and a lot of Black conservatives are trying desperately, I think, to prove, and let me say why I'm saying desperately, because some people in the comments could tell you think I just say stuff and don't really realize what I'm saying. Let me tell you why I said Candace Owens and others, Black conservatives, were trying desperately. So Larry Elder, Candace Owens' mentor, put out a documentary called, two documentaries. The first is called Uncle Tom. And the first one was basically a documentary about Black conservatives saying that because they don't fit the Black narrative, the Black left narrative of believing in systemic racism and so forth, that they were called Uncle Toms because they wanted to be conservatives and voted Republican, so to speak. And this whole documentary, and it was a good documentary, to be honest, I think it exposed a lot of what I see about the left, about the Democrats. I think it exposed in that level. I was like, yeah, man, I agree with this. I personally don't trust the Democratic Party. And by party, I mean specifically many of those who function within the governmental status of being a Democrat in the congressional, in the House and so forth. I don't trust them. I don't subscribe to them. I don't vote for them. None of that, right? I don't mean everyone who votes Democrat. There's a lot of people that I think are good people that vote left and right. But I watched the documentary, and then at the 1 hour and 28 minute mark, 28 minutes and 44-second mark of this Uncle Tom documentary, you can go check this out. When I do this stuff, I speak from specifics, not just, I just don't say stuff to say it. At least I try not to. At the 28 minute and 44-second mark, 1 hour, 20 minutes, 40 minutes, there was almost 4 minutes of most of those high profile. Now, Candace Owens wasn't in this particular clip, but all of the high profile Black conservatives basically were lamenting the fact that they said, this is what they said, not Black Lives Matter didn't say this, they said this, that the conservatives don't want the Black vote. Everything from, I think, Carol Swain, who tried to win the conservative Black vote I think she was down south somewhere, and maybe I could be wrong about Tennessee, but she was down south somewhere, and she said the conservatives were like, man, pack it up. Like, why are you even Larry Elder said this. A bunch of these conservatives, black conservatives, were saying that white conservatives don't care about or want the black vote. And I thought, wow, what an honest revelation. I gave Larry Elder his credit for putting that in the movie. And I thought, that's so interesting, because you all will call black people stupid who vote Democrat, but then you're saying Republicans don't want the black vote. So why would black people all of a sudden want to vote Republican when you, as a black Republican, are saying white Republicans don't want the black vote? It was just profound to me, right? I'm giving you all context to why I'm saying this. Some people probably think I'm woke already, because as soon as you mention race or anything, you just think woke. You've been programmed to think that way. And all of it. As soon as you mention any of that stuff, and that's fine. I'm fine with that. I don't mind if you think that way or unsubscribe. I get it. I know the culture that we're in, but I'm going to say what I say and believe what I believe. So you get all of this happening, right? It was fascinating to me. Me and my buddy Strack would watch this documentary. We were like, man, it's so fascinating that they're screaming at you for voting Democrat, but then the Republicans, they would say they don't care about your vote. They have no desire to see you win. I'm paraphrasing with that phrase. So anyway, so you get this. What ended Black Lives Matter was not conservatives in their perspective. It was the foolishness and the sinful stealing and fake propaganda. They got Patrisse Cullors on them ended Black Lives. They ended that. They ended it themselves. They did it to themselves. From that, though, a lot of conservatives and people who didn't agree with the black agenda, the leftist agenda that they would call the woke agenda is now called, they made everything related to racism now be false. Any concerns you bring up about racism, look, they were exposed, but Black Lives Matter weren't the faces of race. They made themselves the faces of concerns that people have about racism. Now, I personally believe that the term racism has lost its luster. And among the Christian church, I watched a lot of white evangelicals push back against any notion of racism as if like that stuff went away, which is puzzling, because we know that sin's not going to go anywhere until Jesus returns. But I think we need to start. I've said this before, that to think about it in its proper biblical context. I don't think racism. At one point, I thought it was favoritism, and it really isn't. I think it's the decimation of the second greatest commandment. Right? You love your neighbor as yourself. It's woefully gone on the left and the right. This is why I don't know why any believers subscribe to them. So I'm sorry for this context, but this is important to make the statement. So from that, Patrisse Cullors and them get exposed. Candace Owens and them, they helped uncover the expose, which then all of a sudden makes anything related to race or black people, anything, just woke, null and void, right? All this is true. And so now what you have is, that's the cultural context that we're in. Now, I did a video called The Wonderful Irony of Vodi Bakum a few weeks ago. And it was because he wrote a book called Not Like Being Black. And his subtitle was How Sexual Activists Hijack the Civil Rights Movement, right? I thought that was fascinating, because many people would equate, when you use the term woke, you're saying to that person you're calling woke that their concerns for racism or race between treatment towards black people still being unfair, you're calling it woke, but woke would incorporate sexuality and all these things. So you're basically equating race to sexuality. With Vodi's, which I thought was ironic, said, no, they're separated. The sexual acronym community hijacked the civil rights movement, right? Which I 100% agree with. I was saying that on my album, The Appendix, in 2018. I had a song called Gay is the New Black. I totally agree with that. But nevertheless, the cultural context today is when you say anything about race, you're woke. It's black. You have to find new ways to say it. Otherwise, you won't get the kind of audience that you want, right? So that's the cultural context we live in, all right? So what do I mean when I say the media and some black sympathizers and some black women are making black women look dumb? Well, it's all because of one white woman, the one and only Caitlin Clark, all right? Here's the challenge. She comes into the league. Before she gets into the league, everyone's excited. everyone's excited because she was a monster in the NCAA tournament for 2 years in a row. We watched her go to back-to-back championship games. Keep in mind, her most recent season, earlier this year, she had to go through two of the best teams, three of the best teams, in some of them in the history of women's college sports. She had to go through LSU, she had to go through UConn, and then play again another undefeated South Carolina, whom she had beat the year before. This was unprecedented, and it was really largely because of her. There's no way Iowa would have. I mean, she dropped 41 points in one game. When she came out, declared to go to the draft, there was such a frenzy around her. Asia Wilson was the first one that I was aware of that said that the frenzy is connected to her being white. All right. And then you had Sunny, I forgot her last name, from The View, who then turned it into white, her sexuality, and pretty privilege is what she called it. And that was a narrative, right? I did a video back then and I said, beauty's in the eye of the beholder, and I'm an ugly dude, so I'm not one to, I'm not a model or anything, but I don't think Caitlin Clark is that attractive. And I don't think most people are drawn to her because she's pretty. I thought that was just a crazy narrative for somebody to say as a Black woman, but it wasn't, it was just so not true. Like, I'm sure her boyfriend thinks she's pretty, and I'm sure there are people that do. I bet you more men are drawn to her because she's popular than they think like she's, but again, that's neither here nor there. Beauty's an eye of the beholder. But I don't think that's the going narrative for Caitlin Clark. I think people are drawn to her because she's just a ridiculous shooter. They call her Logo 3 for a reason, right? But this narrative started by Asia Wilson, and a lot of the narrative was connected to Asia Wilson. We didn't know, she didn't have a shoe from Nike publicly, but is clearly the best player in the world in college, in football, and women's basketball, potentially in the world that we know of. And if she's not, she's up there with whoever, right? Who else are you putting in? Maybe Brianna Stewart, I don't know, Stewie, whatever. Maybe her, maybe. You got a couple people that are balling. Jewel Lloyd is balling right now. There's some people that are balling, right? But they were saying that, Caitlin Clark is getting this privilege because she's white and all this stuff, right? And this was a narrative. And then you had Dejanay Carter, Alyssa Thomas's, who's Caitlin Clark's teammate. Her girlfriend was tweeting and saying all these things about and making it seem like she clearly did not like Caitlin Clark. It was clear from the beginning. Now, some people didn't like her because they just weren't the chosen one. They were upset that this girl was bringing the attention that they always wanted to bring into the league, all right? And then she comes in and they stack up her schedule, give her the toughest schedule. She doesn't do as well as she did in college, so people are like, oh, man, look, she's a bust. But then she starts cooking, all right? And then there's this narrative that has the Rookie of the Year narrative. I have no idea. I don't remember in the NBA, and I could be wrong. I don't remember in the NBA so much fervor over the Rookie of the Year months away from it being even able to decide that. Like, it's just like, I could see if it's the end of the season and it's close, but maybe when Jason Kidd and Grant Hill were co-Rookie of the Year, there was a lot of attention on who's going to win it. But this narrative between the Black woman who calls herself the villain, Angel Reese, who has been exposed for padding stats to get this double-double record, even though she's balling, she's a phenomenal player. No one's doubting her. And this is the thing people got to realize. Just because someone is the chosen one doesn't mean other people aren't good. Like in the secular world, for me, Jay-Z was, to me, he was the GOAT, if we want to use that term. For me, Jay-Z was my GOAT. But some people had Lil Wayne, and some people think Kendrick is there. Some people think Drake, in the secular market, right? Just because Michael Jordan is the GOAT, doesn't mean that there aren't phenomenal players, right? But somehow people took people's excitement for Caitlin Clark as if no one else is good in the league. And then it came off as like, man, you guys are being jealous. This girl is selling out stadiums, selling out jerseys, selling out. I'm talking about, listen to this, in record time. Caitlin Clark's 2024 WNBA game jersey, available in black and pink, sold out in 15 minutes after being released. The rapid sellout occurred despite the jerseys being priced at $130 each. sold out in 15 minutes. No other players did that. Not that quick. The demand for merchandise continues beyond jerseys. Wilson basketballs associated with Caitlin Clark also sold out immediately upon release. I think they had 3 different types of basketballs sold out just like that, right? And before her professional debut, within an hour of her being drafted first overall by the Indiana Fever, most sizes of her regular team jersey were sold out. Sold out. So this girl's coming in, and people are still talking about race and black women. And then you have the Candace, I'm sorry, I was talking about Candace Owens in my previous video. Then you have the Angel Reese Rookie of the Year stuff, where she's saying, hey, people are watching me too. I'm the reason why. And I think as a black woman, black women are looking dumb because of media and because of black sympathizers. Let me explain what I mean. Even more detail. So the Minnesota Lynx just played the Indiana Fever. It was a big deal for 2 reasons. One, Cheryl Reeves is the coach of the Minnesota Lynx, but she's also the USA basketball coach, who everyone said reportedly was the one most responsible for not wanting Caitlin Clark to be on the Olympic team, right? All right. They played them a couple days ago. I watched the games. Phenomenal game. So Cheryl Reeves is the coach of the Lynx. She's the coach of the Olympic team, and she has a T-shirt on that says Black Girls Rock. Right? She's a white woman. White woman. Black Girls Rock. The night you're playing Caitlin Clark. Now, maybe she's worn that shirt before. I haven't seen it. I don't watch a lot of Mercury Lynx. I really only watch whoever Indiana Fever's playing, to be honest. I'm sure I'll get into it, but I just don't have time to sit around and watch a lot. So I watch those games when I can. I pretty much catch most of them. So I was watching this. It's a Black Girls Rock. So to me, and I think to most people, it was an obvious statement, right? It's a statement against, because Caitlin Clark is the drive for a lot of the attention. It doesn't mean that women haven't labored and killed it and done a good job. I mean, if you look at in hip hop, right, all the people like the Big Daddy Kanes, the Rakims, the Sugar Hill Gangs, even the KRS Ones, the LL Cool J's, all the people that made, I mean, you know, all the people that rapped before, like Jay-Z and Nas and DMX, before it really blew up and dudes were getting like crazy contracts. All those people laid the foundation. But when Nas came out, Nas was that dude. And eventually Jay-Z took the crown for many people. And then Eminem drops. And now all of a sudden you got a white dude that can spit, right? You get Kanye West coming out talking about being black, but now talking about dropping out of college and didn't have to talk about hustling and selling drugs, right? You get all this stuff. These people are making way more money than like Melly Mel and them made, but they laid the foundation. But you got to accept that Jay-Z and these people, certain people became the chosen ones to the culture. Caitlin Clark is the chosen one, but these people act like it's a race issue and not a skill issue. And I think it's making them look dumb. Let me show you this clip. Here's what Cheryl Reeves said. I respect Cheryl Reeves for saying this. After the Indiana Fever after the Mercury Lynx lost to the Indiana Fever the other day, Caitlin Clark had 17, I forgot how many, 8 assists, something like that. She didn't have a double-double. Or maybe did she have a double-double? I don't think she had a double-double this game. But she was held to 7 points in the first half and then scored 10 in the fourth quarter. Even crossed a girl up who's one of the best defenders in the league, made her fall. You know, I mean, she must have been watching my video when I said if she works on her handle, it's a wrap. She made this girl fall. But here's what she says. Here's what the coach, now remember who this is. This is Cheryl Reeve, the coach of the Lynx, and the head coach of, and here's her shirt. You see the shirt? Black Girls, and it says Rock. She's wearing this shirt as a black sympathizer, as if to say, hey, we need to think about the black girls. And let me say this one thing before I say this clip. Here's another reason why I think it's making black women look dumb. Because not only is Caitlin Clark not publicly boasting or antagonizing any of this, the other reason is because there are white girls that are ballers in the dub. They had nothing to do with Caitlin Clark. Kelsey Plum is a bucket. Sabrina Ionescu, Stewie, these white girls ball. They ball. Las Vegas is back-to-back champs. Why are they? Is when Kelsey Plum drops 30, is it white privilege? Is it pretty privilege that people like her? Is it pretty privilege that was it white privilege when Sabrina Ionescu got the shootout against Steph Curry last year in the 3-point contest and won? Was that white privilege? Was that pretty privilege? Was that what that? No, no one said that. No one said that at all that I'm aware of. No one said it. But you're saying it because of Caitlin Clark? No. These people are upset because, and you're turning it into a race thing. And so what happens is when people watch you say it's a race thing and they know that they're not watching Caitlin Clark because she's white, it makes the cause look dumb. And you almost sound like Black Lives Matter after being exposed for the fraudulent nature of who they are. And there's not an equilibrium. There's still concerns that you could say you have for racism in America. But like now, you got to understand the cultural context. You got to phrase it differently. Here's what Cheryl Reese said after the game. Here was the question, and here's how she answered it.
And Cheryl, I would just say this game was so fun to be at, to be a part of. Was the Upper Bowl open? Yes. It's the climate.
Yeah.
In your mind, what are the steps that this league can take to have this be more consistent in the regular season, an event, a game atmosphere like today?
I mean, I don't know that I quite understand the question in that everybody knows that the reason why our teams around the league are having sellouts are because Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever are coming to town. Angel Reese has impacted their attendance at the Chicago games. I suspect on the road as well.
Listen to what she said. She threw in that because Black Girls Rock, Angel Reese, but like, why do you have to put that in there? Only because this narrative of Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese for Rookie of the Year is on the table. So she threw in there, but then she said, I suspect that she's done that elsewhere. This is what she means. I haven't heard that she has, but she's trying to keep it to the Black Girls Rock thing, right? I suspect, but she hasn't heard it. But she acknowledges that people are showing up. I mean, listen, well, I'll let her finish. I'm going to show you something.
So what the league can do is be ready to capitalize on the moments. But it's much like when we saw Bird and Magic come in the league, right? That the league has been building, for a watershed moment, and we're here, and now you got to take advantage of it. And it's beyond just kind of saying, okay, well, the Indiana Fever are coming and they're selling out, and you're just sitting back and watching it. How other ways can you monetize and capitalize on it? That's obviously a business, layered thing, but that's how I think you could capitalize.
So here's what I appreciate, because she is arguably the main person who did not want Caitlin Clark on the team, apparently, right? She's the one person that everyone's saying didn't want her on the team. Here she's saying, look, here's the reality. She said, I don't understand your question about stadiums being packed. Everyone knows, it's no secret that Indiana Fever, Caitlin Clark is coming to town and everyone wants to see her play. And this is after she lost. Before the game, here's what she said. I don't have the clip. Before the game, they asked her about being on the Olympic team, and she says, well, I don't want to talk about that. I'm the link coach. I don't want to talk about the Olympic team. And they talked about the crowds coming, and she said, I don't give a SH, right? I could give 2 SHs, right? So she says that before the game. After the game, after losing, being somewhat embarrassed, then she says, look, let's just be honest. Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever are the reason why stadiums are selling out. She tries to give a shout to Angel Reese. Black Girls Rock t-shirt. This is the problem. Angel Reese is not competing with Caitlin Clark. This isn't a black versus a white thing. This is who's more exciting to the fans right now. And that's just what it is. To be honest with you, even in the NBA, the most exciting players, it's been a long time since basketball's excitement was based on centers who get the ball down low. Shaq, Olajuwon, Patrick Ewing, Alonzo Mourning. You get these, did I say Olajuwon? You get Tim Duncan and these guys. Like, there was a point where down low players were a big deal. But now, once LeBron comes in, it gets back to the power swing forward, power forward. Then Steph Curry blows up. It's a guard's game again, right? As a matter of fact, now in the NBA, the centers are pulling threes. Wembanyama, what is he, like 7'2"? This Bama's blocking shots, dribbling up the court, pulling threes, right? Like, this is what's happening. Like, that's what's exciting to people, is a three-point shot or you dunking in somebody's face. That's what's exciting in basketball, men's basketball. So when women come, you're not going to have, besides Brittany Griner, maybe if you're not going to get people, like, I've never seen Brittany Griner just get it, cock it back, like, boom, and dunk on it. You're not seeing that. If Brittany Griner did that, jumped over somebody, boom, man, we would be tuned into that. We want to watch that joint, because that's not something you expect. Women's basketball is very good and competitive, but it's stuff that you can see elsewhere that may go beyond what they can do, right? You go watch the high school McDonald's All-American game. You can watch a top high school team in the country, and they might be able to do, they would do similar or greater things than a woman. So women have to just do some things differently to get people's attention, even though they're ballers, right? And so Caitlin Clark comes in and she's pulling from the logo, and now all this attention is there. And people are in the league are still talking like this is a thing between white versus black and tweeting things. And it's like, in the cultural context that we live in, it's making black women look dumb, because it's like, here you guys go again, talking this race crap. Here you go again. And I think what it's actually doing is, because when people hear that, they're so tired of it, especially if you're poor white in like Kentucky, Ohio, if you're in like the Rust Belt, right, in Appalachia, and you're poor and you're white, and you're hearing people talk about white privilege, I'd be offended. I'd be offended. Personally, I think one size fits all. I'm offended at that. I think one size fits all is a lie, but that's a different conversation. I just think there's just a lot more. It's more complicated than just white privilege and white. And Caitlin Clark is not getting privilege because she's white. She's getting privilege because she'll take a step or two after the half court line and pull it and make them joints. And and Steph Curry made 3-point shots incredible, made them exciting. So why am I saying all this? Because I'm concerned for black women in particular, that and for black people, the concerns that can be legitimate that you bring up, things like this are just going to further. Like, I wish Asia Wilson would just give it up. People are not sweating Caitlin Clark and not you in the same way because you're black. It's because you're not an anomaly to all people. You're just not as exciting. And that's all it is. Asia Wilson when you watch her play, she's exciting. But she's a post player. And even in the NBA, post players aren't the most exciting players to watch now. Even the post players are pulling threes because they realize, I got to be able to push the ball up. What's big boy from Denver, right? Jokic, the Joker. That Bama will get a rebound and shoot a three. He's a center, big boy down low. He'll shoot a three, right? Karl Anthony Towns from Minnesota, 6'11", 7 foot, pulling threes. Like, even they had to adjust. And so I think no one's going to sweat women who are post-up players when you don't sweat men who are 7 foot and stuff. And they're not that. That's not the way you look at the game anymore. They're still phenomenal players. Angel Reese is a great player. Good streak with the double doubles, even though it was clear she was pressed. And I thought New York Liberty not letting her get that double double was funny. Now, what was that? Was that racist? Was that black girl? Like, what was that about? How do you classify that? Like, why is it white privilege? It's just weird. I think it's weird. And I think it's making black women look dumb in the sense that we don't need to, everything isn't about like racism. Sometimes it's like, look, this girl's the chosen one, and now more people are watching. They just said that women's athletic apparel is at $4 billion right now. $4 billion. Like, there's a dude that I watch who does WNBA videos, and he said that like, it's not just Caitlin Clark. Her jersey sold out the fastest and is gone. but people just want a jersey. So they're just buying her jerseys. Now they're just buying jerseys. It's blowing up, but she's a large part of it. She's not the only reason, but she's a large draw to women's basketball, at least. So it would be nice if Black women in the WNBA, like Lexi from LA Sparks on Gilbert Arenas' joint, she was just honest and said, look, she's the one that everyone on every team, the scouting report is always, where is she? Where is she at? Where is she? We got to stop her. I don't know if people are thinking we got to stop Angel Reese or else. I think Kennedy Carter is better than Angel Reese. Kennedy Carter is balling. She is ridiculous. She reminds me of like a younger Kyrie, like just slasher. She can dribble, but she just be slashing. Kennedy Carter, that's the girl who knocked Caitlin Clark down, the light-skinned Black woman. Man, she is ridiculous with it. And but anyway, Dan Patrick had an amazing take on this. I'm going to end watching his point. Listen to what Dan Patrick says here. I thought this was brilliant. This was a brilliant take. Here's what he says.
Yeah, they beat Minnesota in Minnesota. That's a big deal. And Caitlin Clark. See, that's the thing. There was a player earlier this year that said, she's kind of one-dimensional. All she does is shoot. And I said, well, that player is ill-informed because she is a wonderful passer. And you have to have that ability. And sometimes you get it from other sports. She played soccer growing up, to be able to see something before it happens. And that's a lot of what soccer is. It's something happens to something happens, and then it's going to happen over here. To be able to see that, Gretzky had that ability to see maybe 2 or 3, moments before a big play. And it's not something can be learned. I think it's, something instinctual that she has. And they're playing well. I go back to what I said about Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever. The WNBA tried to capitalize on her popularity and crammed a lot of games in over a short amount of time, playing against the best teams in the WNBA. Well, she struggled, and they started out 0-5, and then all of a sudden she was overrated. And she had played a full basketball season, little time off, and then you start the WNBA. And you're starting the WNBA against everybody as a really good player. Everybody's talented to get to this point. And they were rested. So I said, once she gets a break and then plays, some of these other teams, then you'll probably see her play similarly to the way she played at Iowa. She's not going to be scoring 28 points a game, at least not anytime soon. But her ability to pass. Now, I know she has a lot of turnovers. She's trying. Now, that can also be an indictment on her teammates as well.
Let me say something real quick because he makes a good point, but you have to take this into consideration. Caitlin Clark is averaging, I think, 17 points and like 8 assists a game, all right? So that means that she scores 17 on her own and assists at least if those points are all 2-pointers. She's averaging 8 2-pointers a game. 8 assists a game. If those were all 2, which we know they're not because she hits Katie Lou, who hits threes. She hits Alyssa Smith every once in a while, hits a 3. And then Kelsey Mitchell hits threes, right? She has 8 assists a game. That's on the low end. She gets more than that sometimes, 12, 13 assists. That means that bare minimum, she scores 17, at least 16 more points per game come because of her passing and getting into them and they're open and they shoot and they score, right? So by default, technically she's averaging more than 17 because she's responsible for at least 16 more points a game by her passing and getting those assists. So what he's saying is true. She's not scoring as much as she did in college, but if you look at how much she's contributing to the overall offensive output, she's balling. She's balling. She's scoring more than 17 a game because she's helping them score. All right? But here we go.
But she is always looking for the pass, and she's very, very good. And I remember Maravich. Maravich could be a great passer, I think Pete always looked for degree of difficulty, and that he wanted it to be a great pass, like behind the back, through the legs. Caitlin's not doing that. She can do that, but that was a big win. And right now they're in the playoff race. But there's still a lot of basketball left to be played. And even, you have people, everybody has their opinion on who's the rookie of the year. And Dawn Staley, great coach, South Carolina, came out and said, this is expected of Caitlin Clark. She's supposed to be great. She's not the rookie of the year. Angel Reese is, because that's a surprise, which to me is wrong, because Angel Reese was the best player on the team that won a national
100%.
championship in college. It's not like she came out of nowhere. And she's been a really consistent player. But you don't say, well, that person, should LeBron not have won the rookie of the year because he was supposed to win it? Like, wait, we're creating arguments here. And really, there's none. Angel Reese has had a really good year. A double-double is something that we can go, oh, I can grab a hold of that. Man, she's got double-doubles. Okay. She does just about every night. Caitlin Clark has a bullseye on her back every single game. You must stop her. I don't think you look at Chicago and go, boy, if we stop Angel Reese, we're going to win. And that's why this is a silly argument. Caitlin Clark is the rookie of the year. Angel Reese is a wonderful player. Absolutely. Plays hard, both ends. She's not rookie of the year. John?
Sorry. I think that's a good take. And that is my good night. Appreciate y'all.